In this video, I'm going to show how to connect the adaptive controllers, such as the PlayStation Access Controller, the Quadstick, and the Xbox Adaptive Controller to the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 using either the Mayflash Magic X or Magic S adapter or the Brook XE2 adapter. The Magic adapters will allow you to connect the Quadstick and the Xbox Adaptive Controller to both the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch. And the Brook XE2 adapter will allow you to connect the PlayStation Access Controller to the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch. In the next parts of the video, I'm going to show how to connect each of these adaptive controllers to the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch console. Before you're able to connect your adaptive controllers using one of the adapters to the Nintendo Switch 2 console or Nintendo Switch, you first must turn on Pro Controller Wired Communication. To do this, go down to Settings, go down to Controllers and Accessories, then go down to Nintendo Switch Pro Controller Wired Communication and make sure this is turned on. Once that's turned on, you can now use your adapters and adaptive controllers with Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch console. To use your Xbox adaptive controller with the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch, you need the Mayflash adapter, either the Magic X or the Magic S adapter. To connect it to the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2, simply take the cord that came with your Xbox adaptive controller, plug it into the back of your Xbox adaptive controller, use the Mayflash adapter and plug in the cord into the Mayflash adapter, and then plug this into the USB port on the side of your Nintendo Switch console. Once it's connected, give it a second to boot up on your Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2. And once it's booted up, you should then be able to use your Xbox adaptive controller on the Nintendo Switch console. In order to connect the Quadstick to the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 console, you'll need an adapter like the Mayflash Magic X or Magic S adapter. Simply take the cord that is plugged into the back of your Quadstick, take the other end of it, and plug it into your Mayflash adapter. Then plug this into the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 console. Please note that your Quadstick needs to be programmed as a game controller in default mode in order for this to work. Plug it into the side of your Nintendo Switch console. Wait for your Quadstick to boot up. And now you should be able to use your Quadstick on your Nintendo Switch console. In order to use your PlayStation Access Controller on the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch, you'll need the Brook XE2 adapter. The Brook XE2 adapter needs to be updated to the latest firmware in order for it to work on the Nintendo Switch 2 console. To get your PlayStation Access Controller connected, you simply just need to plug it in to the adapter. However, you first must assign the controls on your PlayStation Access Controller. This can either be done through the PlayStation 5, or it can be done on a PC as well. In the next part of the video, I'll show how to assign the controls on the PC so that they're pre-assigned before we connect them to the adapter. If you want to assign controls on your PlayStation Access Controller without having to go on your PlayStation 5, you can use the PlayStation Access Controller Profile Editor. A link to this is provided in the notes below the video. Open the link, then plug your PlayStation Access Controller into the computer. Then, go through the steps on connecting your controller, selecting it, and then connect. Once your controller is connected, you can now assign your controls using your computer and not having to go on the PlayStation 5. Once you assign all of your controls, you can then use the adapter on the Nintendo Switch console. Now that your controls are assigned on your PlayStation Access Controller, you can now plug it in to the Brook XE2 adapter using a USB-C to USB cord. Plug it into the adapter, then plug this into the side of your Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch console. Now, wait for your Nintendo Switch to connect to your controller. And now you can use your PlayStation Access controller on the Nintendo Switch console.